The Adam Smith Awards are recognised globally as the industry benchmark for best practice and innovation in corporate treasury. With this podcast series, we're going to take a deep dive into each of the winning solutions and hear from the creators who made it all happen.
Hello, I'm Meg Coates, Joint Publisher and Head of Operations at the Treasury Today Group. In this episode, we take a look at the overall and highly commended winners in our Best Treasury Transformation Project category. New for 2022 to recognise the efforts of those companies which have embarked upon a transformation of its treasury function. Perhaps this has been a result of the need to replace outdated technology, the integration of a newly acquired company, or simply the need to transform the way things are done. Our winner has implemented a major transformation across 3 key centres: the US, the UK and Japan, all at the height of the global pandemic. One of our highly commended winners has focused on transforming its EMEA region first, with more to follow, whilst our other highly commended winner began its treasury transformation before a major acquisition had closed. Overall winners of the Best Treasury Transformation Project are Hiroyuki Ishiguro, General Manager Treasury Section, Finance Department, Headquarters, Sony Group Corporation in Japan; Gurmeet Jhita, General Manager, Head of Accounting, Sony Global Treasury Services plc in the UK; and Terry Vouvoudakis, Assistant Director, Sony Capital Corporation in the USA. Well done.
Hi, I'm Hiroyuki Ishiguro, General Manager, Treasury Section, Finance Department of Sony Group Corporation. I'm the overall winner of the Best Treasury Transformation Project Award. I am delighted and greatly honored to be awarded the overall winner of the Best Treasury Transformation Project in the Adam Smith Awards 2022. Winning the Adam Smith Award is fantastic for us. It is really a remarkable achievement because Adam Smith Award is such a prestigious award that everyone is aiming for. It is truly wonderful that the award recognized Sony's global treasury transformation as a result of strong efforts and outstanding contributions from everyone involved, including our external partners. Because it was becoming increasingly challenging for Sony's Global Treasury Center to meet rapid changes surrounding corporate treasuries around the world. Our aims of the project were to optimize global treasury organization structures by strengthening multiple treasury centers on single platform of TMS, Treasury Management System. We established a strong network of 3 main treasury centers in Japan, USA, and the UK to improve significantly by standardizing, simplifying, and automating treasury operations across all treasury centers with full transparency to Sony headquarters. Our key solutions were to replace legacy systems with SAP S/4HANA Treasury and other new technologies with bespoke developments based on fit and gap analysis to fulfill business requirements. We organized a very strong team, including key partners such as Zanders, JP Morgan, Citibank, and others. That is how we began our digital transformation of global treasury operations in 2018. We enhanced project management and tried new approaches to implement new technologies. We evaluated technologies by analyzing pros and cons, including ROI, based on cash flow analysis. Because cash-based return was much more important than workload reduction for us. We did proof of concept to check technical feasibility of the best option available based on advices from SAP R&D support team. Conference room pilot was executed to confirm functionalities with business users at early stage. We tried our best to detect critical risks in advance and mitigate such risks before anyone gets impacted. We did user trainings with a train-the-trainers approach. Firstly, we do user training for Treasury experts who train key users, who train end users in each Sony office globally. We achieved the digital transformation globally, completed successfully, together with our key partners. These new approaches are in line with Sony's purpose, that is, fill the world with emotion through the power of creativity and technology. We learned that it is very important for both finance members and IT members to collaborate closely to implement new technologies. Our keyword was to deep dive into discussions with open-minded approach. We did such deep dive discussions with key persons. Then we could find new solutions and new approaches that we did not see before. The deep dive discussions helped building strong relationships across diverse team members from 8 countries around the world to work closely side by side, including our external partners such as Zanders, JP Morgan, and Citibank. It helped our Treasury experts to learn a lot, who became capable of overcoming critical incidents even under uncertain external environment. We have cultivated the innovative spirits in our own resources for the future. It is in line with Sony's corporate direction, that is, getting closer to people.
Hello, I'm Gurmeet Jhita, Head of Accounting at Sony Global Treasury Services, and I'm honoured to receive the award for overall winner of the Best Treasury Transformation Project. The Treasury operations are an integral part of the Sony Global operations, hence vitally important that the project was implemented seamlessly. The transformation included the optimization of global structures into 3 main treasury centres, Japan, USA, UK, across a single SAP Treasury platform for better access to capital markets in each region and to be closer to local entities. It was essential to build the right project team and structure. This required the right Treasury expertise, plus buy-in from every Sony segment and function, including finance, accounting, tax, and risk and control. This was complemented by the engagement of the right partners, including Zanders as the lead consultants. All project phases were given close attention, especially the requirements and design phases, key user training, designing the SOD rulebook, and UAT. It was important to closely involve the business and IT teams in intensive workshops where possible. To develop fundamental understanding, it was imperative to perform many of the SAP processes manually before automating through batches. SAP Standard was implemented where possible, which meant re-engineering several legacy processes carefully to not cause impact to the diverse internal customer base. This also allowed agile scalability and flexibility to react to changes in market conditions and/or tax, legal, or regulatory requirements. Finally, a cliché but close communication across modern project technologies was essential. Working so closely across the matrix structures then allowed the project to successfully deliver on all requirements.
And now it's time for a word from their partners.
Hi, let me introduce. I'm Karata, Senior Vice President for Treasury and Trade Solutions at Citibank. The main aims of this project were to achieve the standardizations and the simplifications and automations by applying advanced digital technology. It was extremely challenging for every project partner, so we, Citibank, would like to express a deep appreciation to Sony for giving us a chance to take the challenge of joining this amazing project as one of the trusted partner banks. As a partner bank, Citibank had several work streams in this project. But we believe the most important role was to support this project in highly regulated countries. As you well know, the highly regulated country impose quite unique local requirements and strict regulations on any kind of financial activity. But obviously, that is exactly Citi's strength, and what Citi were able to do to support Sony in this project. By utilizing the Citi's accumulated deep knowledge and experience, we were able to do our best to support Sony in successfully completing The key element of these winning solutions was, I believe, standardizations. It is quite normal practice for most global companies to have each entity set up a local operation flow, so most of them are black box. However, by creating a global standard operation, Sony encouraged not only the operational efficiency, but also transparency and reinforcement of internal controls and corporate governance. So I believe that standardization was a key element with these solutions.
Molly Walsh, Global Head of Client Service and Implementations with JP Morgan Payments. JP Morgan is proud to celebrate Sony's Adam Smith Award for Best Treasury Transformation. When they approached us as their banking partner, we immediately recognized the importance of doing our part as they implemented their end-to-end solution to speed up their FX deal execution. In order to ensure a high level of service, our implementation team in Japan worked directly with Sony's project team in Tokyo. We also brought in our experts in digital solutions and payment rails who understood their goals and helped them bring this award-winning solution to life. For Sony, this is a tremendous differentiator, and we were pleased to offer our implementation expertise to ensure flawless execution, and we will continue to support Sony with our best-in-class client service. This was an incredible 2-year journey for Sony, and it's a tremendously important solution for the company as they are now able to execute FX deals in under 2 minutes. Anytime a client comes to us, it's an opportunity to build a stronger relationship with them. This was the case with Sony, and we will continue to be there as their banking partner to support their innovations and all their financial needs.
Hi, my name is Laura Koekkoek, one of the partners of Zanders, and Zanders is a treasury consultancy firm located in the Netherlands. Zanders supported Sony from start to finish in this metro project. It all started in 2017, where we had our first introduction meeting at the SAP Treasury conference back then. And from that moment onwards until the end of 2017, we had several meetings with Sony to discuss their treasury transformation project in more detail, which resulted in receiving an RFP end of 2017, which Zanders won. So that was good to hear. And that was the start of the great collaboration between Sony and Zanders. The whole journey started with the preparation phase, in which we thoroughly discussed the high-level scope and the proposed planning and timelines for the total project. The scope was about implementing the whole SAP Treasury suite on a global scale. So all entities within Sony across the globe would make use of this new platform, taking into account the objectives of standardization, simplification, and automation. And in the end, it turned out that this preparation phase was quite crucial, as it provided a framework throughout the whole project. And in the end, the foreseen planning was achieved as well. So it was well thought over from the beginning in that preparation phase. After the preparation phase, we supported Sony in designing the future setup of the system, including all the third-party systems, like, for example, trading portals and the bank systems. And all those systems we needed to connect with the SAP functionality as well. We also worked on designing new processes. So it was not only a full treasury technology project, but also we looked into the processes like, for example, the whole FX risk management and the hedging process. Zanders was also heavily involved in testing the solution before it was handed over to the Sony business users for acceptance testing. And once the setup by them was confirmed and approved, the migration towards go live took place. And the project went live in 2 phases. First phase was about the in-house banking and payment processes, whereas the second phase was more on the treasury transaction processing. The first go live was in February 2020, and the second go live in August 2020, after which a period of hypercare was executed. And I'm very happy that we could support Sony with our in-depth treasury expertise on both the treasury processes as well as the SAP Treasury functionality in this big and nice project. Yeah, if I may summarize the most important elements of the solution, of this winning solution, I can say it was all about adoption of new technologies, global collaboration, and proper planning in advance. To elaborate on the first one, so the adoption of new technologies, I think I can say the following about that. Sony wanted to adopt new functionalities supported by SAP technology as one of the goals. And an example how we achieved this was the implementation of the new technology for the full automated FX hedging process, making use of the new SAP cloud solution called Trading Portal Integration. This new solution provided Sony with a more efficient FX process where dealers can hedge in a few minutes their positions. The second point was on the global collaboration. Sony included key personnel from the different regions in this project from the start of the project ongoing and empowered them to make decisions on the future setup as well. So the new design was not only determined by a small group of people, but the whole organization was involved in this solution design. And this way of working realized in a well-embedded adoption of the solution throughout the whole organization. And it was really a global team effort where Zanders was luckily part of as well. And I think one of the elements with this global collaboration also came out when the COVID situation turned in. Because of that great collaboration at the start of the project, it was also very easy to continue that collaboration while doing the work remotely. Last but not least, I think a proper analysis of the scope and a proper planning from the start really worked out well. Having the discussions on scope and potential solutions already at the start of the project made that we realized the planning that we had foreseen. So this preparation acted like a kind of framework throughout the project where we multiple times could refer to, and it clearly stated guidelines on scope and the timelines that we had foreseen at the start.
Next up, we have our first highly commended winner in this category. So we have two highly commended winners in this category. The first is Palle Dedenroth, Assistant Group Treasurer, Director, Treasury Cash and Funding Management at Danfoss.
Hi, my name is Palle Dedenroth, and I'm Assistant Treasurer of Danfoss, is headquartered in Denmark, but we are a global company with companies all over the world, basically. My main responsibilities is within cash management and funding of subsidiaries. And our team has been highly commended winner of the Best Treasury Transformation Project Award in 2022. First of all, we have been flattered that we've been awarded this commendation for the Best Treasury Transformation Project. For sure, we have put a lot of work in it, and we have also before this actual event that made us be commended was a lot of work done before to put us in a position to be able to swallow a big acquisition like that. And I also think that this has been a good thing for the team as such to get this commendation, because it kind of give a significant praise to the whole team and the strong committed and effort that they all have done in this transformation acquisition we have been through. When it comes to the transaction itself, the biggest challenge was probably that we faced 30 transactions in one go, basically. Usually when we have done M&A transactions, we had a few entities, and several of them have been minor in size. But here it was 30, and the majority of them all were at a decent size as well. And out of the 30, 21 was set up as asset deals, so meaning that we had to establish new entities, ensuring these entities got the right bank accounts, include them in our treasuries set up in general, and especially the KYC part, setting up 21 new entities is quite a work. And I guess all that has dealt with the KYC in banks know how big a task that can be from time to time. Another thing in that was that since it was an acquisition and basically acquiring something from a competitor, we were awaiting approval from the competition authorities, meaning that we could not get full insight in all details on what it was we were acquiring. Of course, we had dialogues with the other party and got some pretty good feeling about what it was we were ending up receiving and what we should drive afterwards. But still, there were issues from time to time where we could not go into that detailed level that we would have been able to do if it was already part of our business. So the biggest challenge was that we kind of was not able to see everything what we wanted before starting this challenge. Biggest learning point in this project, I would say, is that we try to really prepare ourselves as much as possible. So we try to look into how could we structure this, since it for us was a very huge project and a huge acquisition. We really had to understand how can we split this big task into two smaller tasks. And at the same time, we also understood that we did not have the resources available in the team as we needed. So we ended up hiring two new colleagues. One was put into this project and another one was used for basically taking some of the other tasks that we would not able to deal with at the same time, so that the part of the team that was involved in the acquisition had the time for that and did not need to think about the daily task as well. So all in all, I would say it's about really preparing yourself for whatever it is you are facing, and then I really believe that you have a good chance to overcome what it is you have to do.
And now it's time for a word from their partner.
I'm Roberta Bjuvling, work as a global solution sales for Treasury and Trade Solutions at Citi. The main aim of this project was to integrate the acquired Eaton Hydraulics business into the existing structure that Danfoss had with Citi in the 15 markets where Eaton Hydraulics were present and where Danfoss had a banking relationship with Citi. So with that, I of course also want to thank Danfoss for the opportunity and for the trust of doing this exciting acquisition and integration project together with Citi. The acquisition was unusual because rather than acquiring a consolidated group of entities with a holding company and multiple subsidiaries, Danfoss acquired assets and standalone hydraulic entities from Eaton. Because of this, Danfoss couldn't just take over an existing structure after closing, but had to make sure that the new entities, accounts, and payments was functioning from day one after closing. With such a large project, we had to look at everything from account structures, including cash pooling, processes, credit lines, and guarantees, as well as the day-to-day payments and collections. And instead of just opening a number of accounts, adhering to existing processes, we worked jointly to see how account structures, processes, etc. could be optimized to now then have the best future-proof treasury setup. There were a number of key elements to this solution. First one was to appoint a dedicated project team with a project leader from both Danfoss and Citi. Second was to have a statement of work and a project tracker with all details of the scope, of the milestones, deliveries, etc. It's very important to capture all the details of the scope down to nitty-gritty to make sure that we can deliver on all levels. The project team then held regular calls, and the project tracker was always updated and shared after the calls. From a Danfoss perspective, already having an extremely centralized and streamlined and efficient setup when it comes to infrastructure and processes made the whole integration process very efficient. And with that, Eaton's ERP system was fully integrated into Danfoss connectivity setup for payments. And before going live, a thorough end-to-end testing was of course done. It also enabled around 70% of the sales generated by Eaton Hydraulics to be fully integrated into Danfoss cash pool. Everything was in place and ready to go from day one, and it was enhancing their cost concentration and ensuring business stability.
And now we have our second highly commended winner. The second is Roberta Eiseman, President at Comcast Capital.
Hi, my name is Roberta Eiseman. I am the President for Comcast Capital. We are part of the Comcast Corporate Treasury team. We have Treasury operations in Wilmington, Delaware, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New York, as well as Amsterdam and London, covering the global Comcast, Sky, and NBCU businesses. Winning the award overall, there has been an enormous sense of pride, and I've received multiple requests for the award link and social media banner from our project participants. Comcast Global Liquidity Project is a multi-year endeavor which began with the EMEA region, now transitioning to North America, and then moving on to the Asia Pacific and Latin America regions later in the roadmap. Being in the midst of a large, complex, multinational global project can be challenging for any team. With the recognition provided by Treasury today and the Adam Smith Award, it has provided an excellent opportunity for the project team to reflect on all that we have accomplished among our cross-functional internal teams, as well as with our technology and banking partners. You would think in a project like this, your biggest challenges will be budget, deployment planning, staffing, resources, etc. But where we ran into a unique issue for us was that we were one of the first truly global projects following Comcast's acquisition of Sky. At the same time, we were also asking things of the NBCU businesses that were not previously on their radar, such as centralizing cash to a global corporate-owned cash pool. This means asking teams to work together and take direction in ways they have not done before. This also meant a shift in cultural norms for business units accustomed to being operationally independent, and flexibility by the project team to work with the various business units' unique needs. Treasury is one of only a few teams who currently reach across the Comcast, NBC Universal, and Sky organizations. This means navigating areas where the businesses were accustomed to operating independently and getting them to buy into the project in order to participate and successfully execute. In other words, we had to collaboratively demonstrate to each business where the benefit lied for them. This touches everything from technology, bank contracting at a corporate level, harmonizing data retention policies, cross-pollination of business best practices, harmonization of encryption standards, privacy and security policies that might vary between countries or regions, and all sorts of other business operations or cultural variances. Even use of a single sign-on for our Treasury systems presented a challenge, as we could not connect to multiple user directories, as a consolidated or federated directory was not available at the project's beginning. For anyone looking to take on a project where you require teams to work together who have not done so before, I would caution you that trailblazing is messy. We always say that with a smile because we know we're doing the right thing for the company and we're very proud of what we've accomplished, but it can be a difficult and challenging process. Without a clear definition of the project, its benefits, and senior level support, achieving these types of collaborative outcomes becomes more challenging at best. I would say there are actually two things as I see as the biggest learnings I will carry away from this project. First, for anyone looking to take on a project like this, get early engagement from your technology and cyber leadership. Being in Treasury, I'm very aware of cybersecurity and best practices, but I did not have a full enough appreciation for the technology and cyber efforts that will be required. Our technology systems are managed by a third-party provider as a cloud service, so we initially underestimated how important it would be for technology teams to be engaged. And both the original project team and even some of our technology colleagues engaged early on underestimated the need for cyber engagement. So number one, engage your technology and cyber teams early. Ensure you have the right level of personnel engaged, and this way you can proactively identify potential issues as well as develop and approve solutions that your project can move forward. Second, and this is important, on complex projects, you cannot overestimate the resource requirement. Whether that be budget, time, or people resources, every time we thought we had conservatively budgeted a cushion, we received a surprise. And the more teams, processes, systems, and company cultures that come into play in your project will all have an impact on the surprises you receive along the way. We have been fortunate in that, thus far, the incremental benefits have exceeded the incremental cost. However, no one enjoys going back to ask for more money, and no one wants their team unhappy due to a higher than expected workload to meet the project demand. So whatever you have budgeted or planned, the number two takeaway is build a bigger cushion.
And now it's time for a word from their partners.
Hi, I'm Damien McMahon, Treasury Partner for PwC. The main aims of this project were to help Comcast simplify what they commonly refer to as a Frankenstein of a global cash management landscape, and to automatically centralize much needed liquidity. They challenged us at PwC to imagine we had a blank sheet of paper and we could design what would be the ideal bank and cash management landscape. Being in a company that's grown a lot via acquisition and is now present in over 70 different countries with a huge number of entities and an equally large number of banks and bank accounts, this was a serious challenge. Luckily, at PwC, over the last 10 years, we have developed and populated an app which we call BankLab, and this covers the services of the top 50 banks globally across 120 different countries. So we had all the information on the market capabilities, and we also used the app to be able to gather the detailed requirements of each of Comcast's businesses in each country. Armed with this goldmine of granular data, we locked ourselves in a room with the Comcast team and designed and then selected a streamlined global banking infrastructure. This covered all the in-country requirements, but also rolled up to a global multi-currency, multi-entity notional pool, controlled by a new in-house bank, which we established in London. We then, of course, needed to implement this, which required both an in-house bank tool, where we leveraged Comcast's existing Quantum TMS, and a bank connectivity/payment factory tool. And here we used Trax to connect the myriad of back-end systems to the newly chosen banks. So far, we have implemented in Europe, but are now rolling out to the other regions. The most important elements of this winning solution are the scale and diversity of Comcast's business. Because Comcast grew so much from acquisition, their needs are very different business to business and country to country. In fact, it is more a collection of businesses rather than one business. From parks to film production to cable TV and to news networks, they all have their unique challenges. Our job was to optimize the bank and liquidity structure in a harmonized and centralized manner while insulating those businesses and all their back-end systems from the change. This required a lot of time working with each of the user groups at each of the business. We covered 300 different Trax users, 200 different Quantum users. We need to understand exactly how they operate locally and then translate that and map that into a harmonized banking and system design that would simplify the processes and the management for the Treasury teams at the center.
I'm Gaetan Okias. I'm an executive director working for JP Morgan, and I'm the corporate banker for Comcast. Well, this project was really about taking a client-centric approach. Comcast was facing quite a few challenges, and so it was about listening to what their needs were on the short term regarding integrating the liquidity of their various businesses, but also building a very granular understanding of where they were trying to end up. So in terms of their treasury transformation, what their long-term goals were, and bringing together JP Morgan's capabilities to think about a solution that would address the short-term needs of their liquidity, but also give them the flexibility to then implement the changes they needed for the transformation of their treasury infrastructure. So that was a very exciting project, which required a lot of interaction, both with the Comcast team, but also with the internal JP Morgan team to come to, and their partner PwC, which I should mention as well, and coming up together with a plan that would, ultimately lead to this successful implementation. Comcast's needs in the short term were quite different to their needs in the long term. So being able to address that global liquidity need was quite key, and being able to do it in a way that would enable them to then bolt on additional modules and capabilities to address the longer term picture. So that was quite interesting. The second aspect is probably implementation. I think it's easy to forget how difficult the operating environment was back then. So being able to kind of shift across the various challenges around having global teams spread around the world, needing to sign documentation, being able to leverage things like, our flexible legal framework, electronic signatures, taking a customized approach to client onboarding, KYC questions, all of that made it quite easy for Comcast to implement this rather complex solution. So that was something that we were quite proud of, both on the Comcast, JP Morgan, and also PwC side, who were closely partnering with us. And then the third aspect that I would call out is the scalability. Of course, by now, Comcast have been recognized for the best-in-class nature of their pooling infrastructure and some of the aspects they've put into their transformation. But now we're starting to work with them around how to make that more granular and to more granularly address the longer-term treasury transformation aspects. So all of that work was done upfront when we implemented the solution. And now we're just adding to it quite flexibly at their own pace and as their business requires it. So that's something we're quite proud of.
A huge congratulations to all our Adam Smith Award winners. And thank you for listening to this episode of our dedicated Adam Smith Awards podcast series, brought to you by the Treasury Today Group. More episodes will be coming soon, featuring other award winners. So please subscribe to our channel so you can stay updated.